to Democracy-ish. I am Danielle Moodie.
And I'm Wajahat, and Steve Bannon might actually like me because I'm not a white racist South African. Who would have thought?
What? Happy Monday, everyone. We are waking up in what feels like upside down world today. When you turn on, which I don't and haven't in months, but when you go on to social media and you see that longtime Donald Trump advisor, the architect, but behind 2016, Steve Bannon, has been on podcasts and is being quoted as saying that Elon Musk is the most evil man, that Elon Musk is the most racist man, and that him, Peter Thiel, and others who have their roots in South Africa should pack up their bags and go back to South Africa. Let me tell you that every Black American, every Black person in this country woke up today and said, wait, what? You mean for once you're not talking about us? You're talking about the white South Africans? Wow. What a time to be alive, Waj. What a time to be alive.
The funny thing is it's because Elon Musk is not racist enough against South Asian and Asian workers who come from foreign countries on H-1B visas to help this country become great again. The fight, if you have forgotten, and there's no reason for you to remember all this because there is just so much chaos that, as Steve Bannon said, they deliberately try to flood the zone with shit and keep you exasperated and overwhelmed. There are two shots fired in this brewing MAGA civil war between Musk and everyone else. The first one, if you recall, might not recall, was around the government spending bill. Everything was fine, honky-dory, bipartisan. Donald Trump was in Mar-a-Lago. He thought it was fine that Mike Johnson had arranged this government spending deal to make sure that the government doesn't run out of money. This crap only happens in the United States of America, by the way. And the last second, Elon Musk fired off a tweet at 4 a.m. Remember that? And then fired off all these threats. And then everyone pledged fealty to Elon Musk. And then all these Republicans, I'm sorry. And Mike Johnson came out and said, I am on a text thread with Elon. And then they nuked it, and at the last second, they finally fixed it. And that was shot number one. Shot number two, Vivek Ramaswamy, another billionaire, son of immigrants. He was not an immigrant. Brown children don't let brown children grow up to be Vivek Ramaswamy. He comes out in this huge post. Basically, what he said was, we need the H-1B visa that brings foreign workers because you're all stupid, dumb, and lazy and ignorant, and you watch too much Boy Meets World and TGI Friday. We're like, wait, why is Corey catching strays? And then Elon Musk jumped in and said, yep, American workers, y'all are too stupid and dumb. This is why we need the H-1B visa. And then as a result of that, Laura Loomer went against Musk. Musk went against Laura Loomer. Steve Bannon went against Musk. Musk goes against MAGA. Musk calls MAGA not deplorables, but contemptible fools.
Yep.
And then reshares posts in which people call them retards. So that's what happened last week. And now Steve Bannon said, I have not forgotten this. This is a fight. I will die on this hill. We will win this fight. And the reason for that, Danielle, is because for Steve Bannon and Stephen Miller, this is it. It's not about economic anxiety. For them, it's about saving Western civilization. And Western civilization, folks, is defined as white Christian men who are being replaced by the darkies, by the rest of us.
I gotta tell you that everything that you said, accurate and correct. When I'm looking at the headlines this morning and seeing things like, I will do anything to keep Elon Musk out of the White House.
Skeletor.
When he is going on, he was doing an interview in an Italian newspaper. I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. Corriere della Sera. I don't have no idea. I did my best. He said this, I will get Elon Musk kicked out by the time he's inaugurated. Just checks watch, that would be a week from today. He won't have a blue pass with full access to the White House. He'll be like everyone else, I guess, like everyone else, running an imaginary department that was created for him and Vivek to be the heads of. But Steve Bannon has turned this into a personal vendetta.
Mm.
And it's not so personal so much as what it elevates, like you said, is the real ideological divide, the economic caste divide, the wealth divide between the MAGA technocrats and oligarchs and the rest of MAGA. The rest of MAGA is largely like a Marjorie Taylor Greene and a Lauren Boebert, right? Like, and I say that by regular, quote unquote, middle to low income working Americans, white Americans, a lot of MAGA, there's a mix between secondary degrees, college degrees, and no degrees, right, at all. And this is the swath of people that Donald Trump and his white nationalism has been able to create this coalition of MAGA around. But now you are seeing, as they have grabbed the reins of power by very slim margins, but nonetheless have grabbed the reins of power.
Can you remind Danielle, Danielle, how slim the margin is? I think
1.4%.
That was the presidency.
The presidency.
How about the House?
The House has a 2-seat majority right now. I think that Mike Johnson can afford to lose 1 vote.
Yeah.
He can afford to lose 1 vote in the House. And so the majority is so slim. But what this is illuminating, this MAGA civil war, is the racism apparently is wildly complex, where you have, we hate everyone and hate everything, but where you have the Elon Musks and the Viveks of the world saying, well, Americans are dumb and you all are undereducated and we need the kind of immigrants that we need in this country are our kind of immigrants, our parents and ourselves, the ones that are quote unquote highly skilled, because you all are too stupid to do the jobs that we need done.
That's exactly
Tesla and and SpaceX and and these other globally dominated technology platforms. And he literally said that. And Steve Bannon was like, whoa, 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 who you calling stupid?
You.
Right? And he's like, I didn't stutter. And so it's wild because so far, Waj, Donald Trump did weigh in on the HB1 visa tip and say, I got a bunch of HB1s because now I guess it's an identity. So I have a bunch of HB1s. I
got H1Bs. I got undocumented. I got what do you want? What do you want?
I got like it's wild. But that's what Donald Trump said, essentially publicly siding with Elon Musk after Elon Musk and Vivek put their stake into the ground around HB1 visas. And now we know that largely MAGA is like, we don't want any immigrants here. We don't care if they're skilled or not. And the ones that are here, we want gone. So what are you talking about? And Steve Bannon went so far in that Italian interview to say that, you have these technocrats talking about immigration as if it is one visa issue, and it is a larger system that we're talking about. And they're talking about how they're benefited. And I'm sitting here like, where is my popcorn? Because
you and Thomas.
Didn't we say this as Democrats? And y'all said that we were nuts. So what do you make, Waj, of, this largely and how it's going to play out over the next week, but 2, truly, where you think that Democrats should be, the Democratic Party should be in this fight? Should they be involved at all?
I usually am not an arsonist, but in this case, I'll make an exception. And if I were a Democrat and elected official, I would take jabs on a daily basis. I would pour fuel on this fire. I would retweet it. I would mock Bannon, and then I would turn around and mock Musk. I would do a divide and conquer strategy of imperialists back in the day between these two factions, because, Danielle, these factions are out for each other's throats. I want to remind folks that when Elon Musk turned on MAGA, he just didn't turn on MAGA. Guess what he did? He censored Laura Loomer and the accounts of the people who dared go against him. The free speech activist, right, punished Loomer and others with their badge account on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm them, I would remember that Donald Trump is one of the most fickle, narcissistic people on earth. And I would share, I don't know if we have this, but in the January 20th New Yorker cover, did you see it?
Mm-hmm.
They have Elon Musk pledging.
Oh, yes. I don't
So
have, we don't have it, but I have shown it. I showed it on
you showed it on your show, but if you haven't seen it, then next week, New Yorker has a fantastic cover where they have an illustration of like Elon Musk scooting over Donald Trump, and he's the one being inaugurated and taking a pledge on the Bible. And they deliberately have Donald, you could see half of Donald, but not his face. That drives Donald wild, because what we've seen so far is it's all about Musk. And right now, MAGA is losing to Musk 0-2, right? Trump has gone with Musk for the government spending. Trump has gone for Musk when it comes to the H-1B visa, because now apparently Donald Trump did a complete 180, and he loves the H-1Bs, right?
Yep.
We've also seen Donald Trump essentially outsource everything to Elon Musk. I feel like it is interesting because Donald seems to be exhausted, tired. He just ran to escape accountability. I'm really curious, Daniel, if he literally just sits back and says, all right, billionaires and the bro oligarchy, you got this. Maybe. But at the same time, the fact that Donald, I think it was last week or a week and a half ago, when he went out of his way during his press conference to be like, it's false that Elon is the president and he can't be president because he's a foreigner. The fact that he decided to like go out of his way to say that means he's paying attention, Danielle. Means he's paying attention. And so, if you recall about 2 weeks ago, folks, during the government spending debacle, Elizabeth Warren, I think Hakeem Jeffries and others started for 2 days saying President Musk. Yes, I want a lot more President Musk, Danielle.
I mean, look, you have to play on Donald Trump's ego. You have to. If you know nothing else about political strategy and how to maneuver, what we've learned over the last 10 years of Trumpism and MAGA is how fragile Donald Trump's ego is. I will disagree with you, Waj, in the thought that he would just sit back and be like, well, I really only ran to get out of prison, which we know to be true, but that he would ever want people around the world or in this country to think that he's not the one in control. It is acts in total contrary to this idea of a strong man. Because if you're a strong man, then no one else is pulling your strings but you, right? And so to create or to feed in to this dynamic that it's Elon Musk who is running the show and Donald Trump is just following behind him. If I am Democrats, if I'm Democrat, party leaders, all I'm talking about is President Musk, right? Like that is literally all I would be talking about on a regular basis is President Musk directed the House to do X. President Musk elected, did X, Y. And I would just let it roll off my tongue naturally. Because we've already heard reports that Elon Musk is basically living at Mar-a-Lago.
Yep.
He is a barnacle on Donald Trump.
Yep.
And he can't get rid of him. Of course you can't. The man gave you $250 million in order to buy you and the U.S. presidency. So I feel like if I'm Democrats, I'm not just sitting by on the sidelines eating popcorn. I'm actually going all the way in and saying like, I'm adding fuel to the fire. I am poking the bear, right? Like I am making sure that the world knows that Donald Trump is weak, that Elon Musk is the one in control. And then I am really placing Elon Musk's insatiable greed at becoming the world's first trillionaire on his tour of world domination, right? Like Elon Musk doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about MAGA. He's not actually even MAGA. Let's be real, folks. He just wants the headline to say first trillionaire Elon Musk, and he doesn't care how he goes about doing it, whether or not he takes away your grandmother's Social Security, whether or not he, kicks out certain people from the country. Like he doesn't care.
He does not care about you.
And let it rock.
And he's let it be known, right? And I'm here for it, because if you've seen, folks, Donald Trump still isn't president, right? It's about in a week the nightmare will officially begin. But before this nightmare has actually begun, what we have seen is Musk versus Loomer, Musk versus Bannon, Musk versus the MAGA base that hates immigrants, Musk now versus Sam Harris. If I may spend a second on this, Sam Harris is a new atheist, a notorious Islamophobe, right? An anti-Muslim bigot who's just buddies with Bill Maher. And Sam Harris was also buddies with, wait for it, Elon Musk. So the question should be, why is now Elon Musk and his mob of like 2 million people on Twitter mocking and ridiculing Sam Harris? Sam Harris went on Bill Maher's stupid show and said, quote, I email him and say, Elon, you are being gamed by right-wing trolls who gave us Pizzagate. And he will tell me, go F myself. So now he's no longer friends with Sam Harris. So Sam's Harris base is now fighting with Elon's base, and Elon is using X to attack any one of his enemies. What will happen, folks? If I'm you and you smoke, I don't smoke, take your cigarette, inhale it, throw it. I did it last night on Twitter. I went last night. I retweeted that fight. I saw that clip and I said, look at it, MAGA. I love it. I love all of this. And I want to ask you, Danielle, MAGA, I think there's like a ranking of the people that MAGA hate. Muslims are probably second. I think black folks are probably one. Immigrants of color, probably three. But it rotates. There's a clip by this comedian I found. And I want your thoughts about how you feel that Steve Bannon and Elon Musk are attacking each other for essentially not being racist enough.
Let's play the clip and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
Basically says y'all are like way too dumb to do these jobs. Like I've seen your American schools, I've seen your colleges, and your colleges don't even match other countries' high schools. And the sort of general MAGA response to that was like, well, okay, but you agreed with us for the past like 4 or 5 years that the American college system was broken and that it's too woke and that we need to fix it and we need to change things up. And he was like, yeah, but you still dumb. Like that doesn't change. And then MAGA was like, oh, okay, I didn't know you felt that way, you South African. It's hard to find a whiter man than Elon Musk. Like no, I mean, like literally and figuratively in a sense, because he's very. Oof. You know what I mean? Like the sun, not a friend, right? But the way they were calling that dude African, just. You ever? Because they're like African, but then I'm an African American, and that I've never had racism miss me like the Matrix. That like nearly broke my brain when they were like, "You African," and I was reading it like, "Oh yeah, that no, wow, okay."
I like cried like cried laughing when I watched this the first time, because I literally, when he said missed it like the Matrix, like that is exactly because I was like, oh, they're saying South African with their full-throated trust, the way they like to say the N-word.
Oh,
And
with
the
the
way
hard
that
R.
they like to say thugs and this, that, and the other thing. And I was like, oh, you can't miss this. This is actually not, this is white on white crime right now. And I am here for it. Right. So the reality here is this breakdown, and Josh, this comedian, he's so brilliant, and the way that he encapsulated this is so very clear that all of a sudden MAGA is looking at Elon Musk and looking at Peter Thiel as like the other.
That's
right? I thought that you were on our side, but you are like these uppity immigrants that are coming here and telling us that we're too dumb and we're too slow and that we need you, and that otherwise our country would fall apart without you. And so Democrats sitting on the sidelines like, haven't we been telling you that we are a country of immigrants? Haven't we been telling you that what makes America actually great is like all of the immigrants at all levels, at all intellects, at all skill sets that come to this country with their offerings, right? That is the glue that keeps us actually together. And so to witness this, I'm like, oh my God, I want to see Elon Musk thrown out of the White House. Oh my God, I want to see Steve Bannon put all of his followers like behind the goal to take this thorn out of Donald Trump's side. And we have to remember too, though, that Donald Trump loves this. He loves his people fighting over who has more of Donald Trump's ear, right? Like he likes people to be uncomfortable. He doesn't want them working as a collective team. He thinks that it's better to create a climate of toxicity where everyone is at each other's throats. And so I think that Donald Trump is sitting back in Mar-a-Lago and he's like, ooh, who do you think loves me more?
Yep.
Is it Elon or is it Steve? Right? But they all love me because they're all talking about me. Right. And so I think that, again, if Democrats are strategic, which you and I often say that they are not, how are you really utilizing and capitalizing and exploiting this rift right now? Because I think that it's a major one. I think it is a huge rift in MAGA right now. And it isn't just about these two people. I think that it is entirely about an ideological divide.
No, I agree with you. I think this is why, that's why Steve Bannon's so committed to it. He goes, I'm not going to stop, because for Steve Bannon and Stephen Miller and for the core of MAGA, which was not fueled by economic anxiety, every single study that's been done over the past 9 years has said that the primary, not exclusive, but primary motivation is, wait for it, cultural anxiety, translation, ethnicity, race, too many darkies, too many women, too many Muslims, too many Jews, too many gays, too many trans. We're getting it replaced. Fear of replace. We no longer have power. That is the fundamental driving fear and motivation that MAGA's base has towards Donald Trump. It isn't, how do we make the Broligarchy richer? But now the Broligarchy, bunch of South Africans, Steve Bannon ain't wrong. David Sachs, South African billionaire. Elon Musk, South African billionaire. Peter Thiel has roots in South Africa, right? Vivek Ramaswamy, billionaire. The wealthiest administration that we've ever seen. And like we said last week, like the Wizard of Oz, they've now come behind the curtain and are shamelessly and flagrantly telling you we own everything. Lex Luthor in DC Comics had the decency to at least hide his super like evil plan, right? He like presented himself to be like this brilliant billionaire, but he's like, I secretly want to kill Superman and take over the world. Elon Musk is openly tweeting it because he's addicted to drugs, ketamine, doesn't sleep. And I think he's becoming more and more unstable, Danielle. And now that he spent $250 million and got Donald Trump elected, and now that he's batting, 2 for 2 over MAGA, over the H-1B visas and the government bipartisan spending deal, he's like, you know what? Let me go try meddle and grab the cookies in the UK and Germany. And you folks, if you haven't been paying attention, UK is not messing around, right? So basically what's happened in the UK, for those who don't know, is since January 1st, Elon Musk has been addicted to this story, this really tragic story that happened in the UK like over a decade ago. The grooming scandal in some of these villages, some of these towns, and a lot of these groomers happen to be of South Asian Muslim descent. Now, nationally, guess who the number one groomers are based on ethnicity? You want to take a guess, Danielle?
White.
Yes. But nobody cares. Nobody ever cared. The right wing jumped on this. And now all of a sudden, Elon Musk, talking about pouring gasoline on the fire, has brought this back, Danielle. He has been obsessively retweeting this stuff, retweeting hateful content, Islamophobia. He's been praising this guy called Tommy Robinson. I've been following Tommy Robinson for like 15 years. For those who don't know, Tommy Robinson is a thug, a hoodlum. Started off with the EDL, English Defense League, career criminal, currently in jail for defamation against the Syrian immigrant right, works with the most notorious Islamophobes both here and abroad, is so right-wing and hated that Nigel Farage, who's the head of Reform UK, the Brexit dude, is like, this guy's too far for me. That's how extreme Tommy Robinson is that Nigel Farage of the Brexit of Reform UK, who's like the right-wing equivalent of MAGA, is like, a little bit too much. So Elon Musk has been promoting Tommy Robinson, saying free Tommy Robinson. He went, he talked to Nigel Farage, promised to dump millions of dollars into Reform UK. But then Nigel said, Tommy Robinson, a bridge too far. And guess what Musk did? He turned on Nigel Farage and Reform UK. And now UK is like, yo, back the F up.
I mean, here it says, recently Musk has interfered in European politics, promoting Reform UK, a right-wing pro-Kremlin populist party led by Nigel Farage. He also defended Tommy Robinson, a hooligan and a career criminal who spread false information about a Syrian boy. The fact of the matter is, right, that none of these people can be trusted. And the funny thing is that they all thought that they were on the same side and could trust each other, because their common enemy was a figment of their imagination, which is anyone Black or brown, non-Christian, not a man, is who they're gunning for. And now they're taking each other apart piece by piece, block by block, because the fact is, Steve Bannon sees this moment as a revolutionary one, as a moment where fascists and authoritarians abroad can unite and can reorganize what we spoke about on Friday as the new axis of evil that America will be spearheading, and that Elon Musk and his greed, funny enough, is going to be what upsets the MAGA apple cart, right? That Steve Bannon has been pushing since 2015. So, as this plays out, you are watching it not just in the United States, but globally, and you are seeing this gilded age rise up where 1%, it's like the 1% of the 1% that has the kind of wealth that Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, Thiel, and the rest of them have, are uniting around their greed.
That's right.
And
racism.
And racism, but they are also, right, leaving behind the actual base of MAGA, which got them to power in the first place. So my question is, how long is it that how long will it take for the rest of MAGA to catch up to where Bannon and others are becoming hip to, which is that Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, Peter Thiel, and David, they are not your friends, right? They are actually like, everyone's like, oh, we need our billionaires. Where are our billionaires? Billionaires only look out for themselves. That's right. Why they're billionaires, right? Like, they are greedy. And there's a wonderful, wonderful meme that I keep seeing that says, it's not that we can't feed the poor, it's that we can't, right? We can't create, what was it? We said, it's not that we can't feed the poor, it's that we can't satiate the rich.
That's true.
That was the quote. It's
Great
not
quote.
that we can't feed the poor, it's that we cannot satiate the greed of the rich.
Because they want
And
more.
it's like you have got to let that sit in with you folks and marinate, because that's where we are.
But it's to answer your question, I was thinking about this last night. And this is where I am, folks. And I've been saying this for about 8 years. And so far it's been proven correct. I've been saying for about 8 years, looking at all the data from different sources and look at the polls, we've lost about 30% of our country, about a third, maybe a little bit less, for my lifetime. Meaning, no matter what happens, Danielle, no matter, I don't know, if there's a pandemic that kills over 1 million Americans, and it's revealed that Donald Trump, who was the leader at that time, a DEI hire, lied to the American public, they'll still vote for him. If it's revealed that he mocks them and ridicules them, they'll still vote for them. If it's revealed that he's going to give tax cuts that go to the rich and nothing trickles down, they'll vote for them. If it reveals that his stupid tariffs make the prices of their eggs go up, they'll vote for him. And the reason for that, Danielle, is because the information ecosystem is run by the right wing. And whoever controls the information and the images controls the minds. And no matter what you do and I do and anyone else does, they will follow the right wing ecosystem because they have become radicalized by the right wing ecosystem. And furthermore, the MAGA that we've been talking about, motivated by cultural anxiety, let's give it an analogy. If it comes to a choice where they have to live in a home side by side with us as co-equal renters, they won't just burn down the house.
Come on.
They're going to burn down the neighborhood. They're going to burn everything down. And I independently came up with this analogy, but our friend, Jonathan Metzl, who, you've interviewed multiple times. I interviewed, he had this book, Dying of Whiteness. We were talking, he goes, wow, I actually use that same analogy, that if it comes to literally living in a home as equal or burning it down, they'll burn it down. They'll throw the baby out with the bathwater with the immigrants, including the South African immigrants, all of us. And that's why we have to know what we're up against. We're not going to win a third, Danielle. I don't think we are. But that leaves about 70%. And if we can get 70% and at least 5% of these people, right? Because if you look at the breakdown of the 2024 election, Donald Trump, half the country, BS. Anytime someone tells you he won half the country, immediately intervene. I always do. He did not win half the country. I'm not good at math. I'm an English major, but I know enough. He won 35% of the country. 35%. Okay. Do the math. Around 5%, 6% of those people were first-time voters, people who voted also for AOC, people who switched, right? Most of the people who came out for Biden didn't. A lot of people stayed at home. It was 15 million people stayed at home, Danielle. So if we have free and fair elections, that means if we do, you have to inspire enough people to get off. And then you could turn about 5% of those voters. And what do you got? He's only got 30%, right? I think you throw fuel on this fire. Exactly what you said. The message has to be, MAGA doesn't care about you. They care about the billionaires. Donald Trump cares about Elon Musk. Donald Trump cares about David Sachs. They don't care about you, America. They're going to steal all of your cookies. And then, meanwhile, I would just put a little, President Musk, look what he's doing. Oh, look at these racist South Africans. No offense, South Africans, but you have to catch some strays for the sake of democracy. Hey, UK, do you want Musk to meddle like he meddled in America? Hey, Germany, he loves AFD, the pro-Nazi party, and now Germany, in a way, Danielle, is also be like, whoa, because Germans and Brits are we see this mother effer corrupting America. So I think we have an opportunity to fracture this global white supremacist movement. And it is a global movement. They're all intertwined. That's why I'm giving the example of Elon Musk in UK. I have a feeling, Danielle, that's what we do. It's going to take a while, though. It's going to take a while.
Let me ask you this, though. Because before we move on to touch upon the continuing wildfires and what is happening in LA, here's my feeling though, Waj. I agree wholeheartedly with your plan. I think that it's brilliant.
But
I think that you're like, what? I think that it's brilliant. I think that, if I'm the Democratic Party leadership, I'm thinking to myself, okay, Our goal here is to exploit and re-educate and reimagine, right, what a multiracial democracy can look like. In what ways, Waj, is the Democratic Party showing you right now that they are actually listening to the folks on the ground, that they are actually prepared for this type of fight, and that they understand the kind of narrative that needs to be created and spread?
Now, you know what it reminds me of? Because I'm old enough. It reminds me of 2001 to 2007.
Mhm,
And I feel like we're in the 2003 mode, right? The
mhm.
John Kerry mode. And what happened in that 2004 election, Danielle? I don't know about you. I went to sleep early that night knowing George W. Bush would win. And I woke up and I saw it and I'm like, yeah, that tracks. And I was in law school at the time and all these people were devastated. I'm like, why? This is America.
Yeah.
Of course he was going to win. But this is what I always say. The Pharaoh thought he'd live forever until he didn't because he wasn't
Mhm.
Aquaman. He couldn't swim. George W. Bush and the neocons thought it would be a project for a new American century until it wasn't, right? The worst recession that our generation has ever faced, the
Mhm.
failure of the war on terror,
Mhm.
Americans coming back in body bags, right? Homes being lost in Nevada, California, Florida, right? Hurricane Katrina, naked racism, right?
Yep.
Climate change at that time, which was not as bad as what we're now experiencing literally right now in California and what we're going to experience all across America. And then Americans were like, oh, they don't care about us. However, the flip side, Danielle, the flip side,
Mhm.
I would say, is there was not a capture of the ecosystem and the media by the right wing like they have now. There wasn't
Yes.
Twitter, there
Yes.
wasn't YouTube, there wasn't Blue Sky,
Yep.
there wasn't
Yep.
uh the other one, which is now like all of a sudden TikTok.
Correct. TikTok.
But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
correct. But you had also an Obama who then came out of this void
Mhm.
because of the F up of Republicans. You had a Clinton who was unorthodox at the time who came out of the void. My question is, are we going to see that repeat? And if it is a repeat, I'm sorry to say, Danielle, it takes Democrats and Republicans effing up for 7 years until we see that.
I mean, my feeling, and I think, and this is what I said this morning on Blue Sky too. Waj, this is our last week of democracy,
Mm,
right? Like I really want, I really want folks to truly understand what is about to happen a week from today. A week from today, Donald Trump becomes president of the United States.
that's right.
A week from today, Kash Patel becomes the head of the FBI. A week from today, you have, Elon Musk and Vivek with Doge. You have Tom Homan as the czar of the border. You
Literally.
you have all of these, the most evil, heartless, moralless people that are taking power. And instead of Democrats creating the narrative and holding up what is true, we are getting swept up in the lies and the fuckery. And
That's
so,
right.
what I told people today on Blue Sky is that I implore everyone to journal. If you journal, to audio record, if you audio record this final week,
Mm,
because you will need to remember
mm,
what the purpose of government is. You will need to remember where the prices are right now of goods and services. You will need to remember, because the distortion and the lies that are getting ready to become our norm are going to have us forget, right? What kind of democracy, even as imperfect as it is,
mm.
what it felt like. Because the whole point of this, Waj, is to create a sense of apathy and hopelessness that
That's right.
has us believe that their way is the only way, and that we lost power and we lost our purpose. And so if we do not fortify and ground ourselves in truth right now and remember who we are, what we stand for, then we are going to be in no position to reimagine how this country can actually move forward. I am a true believer, and I think that you are, Waj, that sometimes things do need to actually burn down in order for you to have fertile ground to build something new. And I'm not saying that we are going to benefit and reap the fruits of what is planted right now. We are not.
Nope.
But the fact of the matter is that we have to figure out how to move forward. And their goal is to make us feel like we are stuck and there is no forward movement unless they tell us where to move and how to move. So if we don't remember the functioning of government, and that the purpose of government was to be for and by the people, and that the people who are career federal workers have always been there to advance right, our needs and center the needs of the American people, again, as imperfect, as racist, as misogynistic and patriarchal as it may be, it has been democracy nonetheless. That's not what we're having a week from today.
You mentioned federal workers. Breaking news in the past hour: incoming Trump team is questioning civil servants at National Security Council about their loyalty and who they voted for in the 2024 election. For those who don't know, their loyalty is to the United States and the Constitution. It's already happening. A purge. And where? National Security Council. Who does he want to be the Secretary of Defense? Pete Hegseth, a man with an amazing, brilliant record of alcoholism, sexual impropriety, financial impropriety, and who's not skilled at all. Tell me about DEI. Who did he want for the head of FBI? Oh, the guy who allegedly had sex with minors, Matt Gaetz. But then he's going to get Kash Patel, a man with no experience in the FBI, but he's a loyalist and has promised to use that perch to go after media critics and go after politicians. It's happening, folks. It's happening in real time. And you have to find a way to resist. Another breaking news, a nerd Avenger, Jen Rubin, is quitting the Washington Post. Do you see this? Yeah, it came out like an hour ago.
No, I did not.
Jen Rubin, who's been a columnist for the past 14 years at the Washington Post, is resigning from the op-ed section. And she's saying, quote, "The Post, along with most mainstream news outlets, has failed spectacularly at a moment that we need a robust, aggressive, free press. I fear things are going from bad to worse at the Post." She gave several examples, including Bezos blocking the editorial board's planned endorsement of Kamala Harris, Bezos giving a $1 million donation along with Zuckerberg to Trump's inaugural fund, and also Tim Cook of Apple, or as Trump refers to him as Tim Apple, because he's an idiot. And she also said a major factor in her exit was Post's recent refusal to publish the satirical cartoon by Pulitzer Prize-winning cartoonist Ann Talneas that showed Bezos and Sam Altman and Zuckerberg literally bending the knee, offering Trump $1 million, a bag of gold. So she's actually quitting and starting up a Substack called The Contrarian with Norm Eisen. Small moments of resistance. Those two news items just came out an hour ago.
Amazing. A part of me, and I'm reading the comments in our live chat. A part of me applauds Jen and Anne and others who are taking a stand and quitting these legacy outlets. On another hand, I'm like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Right? Like we are already so siloed in our news consumption, and our worldview is already so siloed in terms of what is reality and what is not, that what does it mean then that all of these institutions are become hollowed out? Right. I mean, Great for us. Everybody should support independent media that doesn't have a stake in the game other than truth telling and honesty and integrity. But Waj, what does it mean if the voices whom we have followed, who have been ingrained in these places, now leave? I mean, that is how autocracy happens, no?
It's death by 1,000 cuts. They're weakening us, right? Because all of our look, what I always say is, despite the flaws of New York Times and Washington Post and the institutions, nonetheless, these are papers of record that have legacy and importance and gravitas and influence. And if they're being slowly but surely captured by a oligarchy and MAGA, that weakens those institutions, leaves us bereft of a guardrail, and furthermore, that guardrail now becomes another oppressive sword of the oligarchy and MAGA, right? So here we are, we're like the rebels splintered, trying our best to survive in Empire Strikes Back. For those who haven't seen Empire Strikes Back, spoiler alert, at the end of Empire Strikes Back, Luke Skywalker loses his hand, Han Solo is frozen in carbonite, and everyone's split, but they're barely alive. It's going to be a long walk, Danielle. I think America learns the hard way. If you just look at American history, it's always been bloody, always been violent, always committed to greed, always committed to white supremacy. We hate telling these stories. We hate acknowledging our true face and faces. We hate looking at the heart of darkness. We would much rather ban these history books, ban AP African American Studies, not talk about it, right? Apparently our kids are okay enough to freaking dodge bullets, but they're too sensitive to read Toni Morrison, right? They're okay to get COVID and survive school shootings, but a book by Toni Morrison, it's just too much for my
they're
kid.
okay to give birth at the age of 10 and 12 and 12 years old, but are too sensitive to actually learn American history that isn't centered on whiteness and maleness.
And also vaccinated, too sensitive to get vaccinated. Another story that, Danielle and I were talking about just before we hit record. I was looking at the news. New York Times has just a disturbing graph where even before COVID, thanks to vaccine hesitancy, but then put on steroids thanks to right-wing disinformation. This was the vaccination chart, right? Like 99%, 100 kindergartners getting vaccinated. Guess where it is right now? 93%. Which means measles is making a comeback. Whooping cough, polio. We all right. I gave this analogy to Danielle. I got to go biblical. Right? I'm a Muslim, guys. These are, believe it or not, fine stories, right? Just stories, right? But this is what I think, right? Because growing up Muslim, reading and going to old boys Jesuit Catholic school, read the Bible, read the New Testament, Old Testament, read the Quran. You read these stories, and you sometimes read these stories, and you go, people can't be that dumb. Come on now. Like if I was like, I always sat there and I thought about it. If I'm with Noah and Noah's like, yo, you know me, I know you, I'm an honest dude. There's a flood coming. I'm like, Noah, you might be getting a little too old. Then I see a lot of rain. I'm like, I don't know, that Noah, he's been making an ark for a while. And then all these animals are going to the ark. I'm like, I never saw a pair of animals going to the ark. And now I see so much flooding, Danielle, that like I'm on the top of my roof. I'd probably be going, you know what? I'm going to swim to the ark. And if you read the story, the people are like, I'm going to take my chances with the land. I think Noah's crazy. Like every single, like if it's all parables and metaphors and symbols, every single story of the prophets is pretty much that. The prophet's like, hey, y'all, I'm trying to help you from not getting killed. And they're like, you crazy person, I'm going to kill you. And I'm like, this would never happen in modern times. And then I see Trump. And then I see the pandemic.
And then we're here. I said, these motherfuckers are so stupid that they would protest gravity by jumping off a roof. Here comes the discovery, right? Like, here is gravity. And they would be like, you ain't nothing but a lie. Gravity doesn't exist, right? And like,
you ain't that gravity.
I can't see it. So, I'm going to jump off a fucking cliff to prove my point.
I'm going to own you, you liberal gravity cuck. I'm going to show you I'm gonna own gravity, just like I'm gonna own the libs. They're gonna jump off a building, and you know what's gonna be? Splat. You ever see the movie The Other Guys? It's like Sam Jackson and Rock are playing these like tough like law enforcement folks. It's hilarious. You know, in these movies where like they do incredibly absurd feats that in real life would get you killed, and Sam Jackson and Rock are like these two super movie cops. They're like, the car's down there 6 feet below. Are you gonna be a pussy? Of course not. I'm gonna jump. You first. And then Sam Jackson and Rock jump, and it's like slow motion, and then splat.
I mean, that, like, look, folks, you know, we laugh so that we don't cry. Honestly, like, you know, you need the levity, but like, it is, yes, exactly. Gravity is a liberal concept now. Yes, that is exactly what would be.
Vaccines are a liberal concept now.
Like,
Science.
that is literally what would be said. Like, it is, you know, I will say this, and then I just want to give us just a few minutes to talk about
Yes.
the fires, which is, I mean, this is, it's like, it is when a technocracy, the broligarchy meets idiocracy, is exactly where we find ourselves in this moment. Like, it is so fucking stupid.
Gravity is
where we are. And that is it. I mean, we are living inside of Don't Look Up, right? Like, gravity is too woke. And like, you know what I'm saying? It is the flat earthers are now running the country.
That's right. Flat earthers.
In a week, the flat earthers are running the country. And so I will continue to say, folks, start journaling. If you don't like to write, record yourself a minute each day to remember, because you are going to feel insane in a few weeks time, in a few months time. And I can only imagine what years of this is going to do to us. But before
wait, Daniel, can I say this? Our community, which is very sharp and smart. Thank you all. You all have mentioned Octavia Butler and Parable of the Sower. We haven't brought it up on the show, but literally right before we press record, you know, we were just talking about the latest fire, and I was telling Danielle if she heard the Axios story about the fires destroying a Black community birthed from a civil rights era. And the Eden Fire flattened many Black homes, but specifically Altadena, California, it's just wiped out. And Danielle was like, yeah, Octavia Butler wrote about it. And in fact, she wrote about it in the fires, these devastating fires that started from climate change. And she wrote about this book years ago. And for her, in the book, folks, a book of fiction, the date of the fires was February 1st, 2025. Danielle.
And for folks who you watch me on the Danielle Moodie show, and I've been talking about Octavia Butler for a very long time. If you've listened to Woke AF, Octavia Butler is the picture behind me, closest to the window that you can see. That is Octavia Butler. The book that Waj is talking about is Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents. It is a 2-book series. And what folks may not know is that Octavia Butler is from Altadena, California. That is where she was born. And that is why she set Parable of the Sower in Altadena. And, you know, what she had said, and I said this last week on the Danielle Moodie show, is people had spoken about her. She died in 2006 and said that she was a prophet, right? How could you have known? How could you have known? And she said, I am not a prophet. I looked at the problems that America has been ignoring, that the world has been ignoring, and I projected 30 years into the future when these full-on problems would become intertwined, compacted crises. And that is how Parable of the Sower opens. And it is the confluence of climate change, fascism, racism that just absolutely takes hold of America. And this is where we are present day. And so I have urged people so many times, read the book, read the books, because it is so salient to where we are in this moment. I read it for the first time 10 years ago in 2015, and I almost threw the book across the room because the president at the center of the book, his tagline was, wait for it, make America great again.
Mm.
And he was a Christo fascist. And, and so again, we are in extraordinary times, and you need to be more grounded than ever. You also need to have a lot more gratitude if you are not a person that has a gratitude practice. Waj talks about his faith often, right? I am a person that has faith in spirit and faith in the universe and faith in ancestors. And so, what I will say, the disorientation, the misinformation is going to feel like you're inside of a hurricane, inside of a tornado, inside of a raging fire on a regular basis. And if we don't find ways to ground ourselves in truth and reality and imagine the world that we want to be in, we are going to get sucked up in apathy and hopelessness. And we cannot have that happen. And, here you have, Donald Trump. He's not even president yet. He's not even inaugurated yet. Retweeting fake AI generated photos, right? Retweeting to hundreds of millions of people, fake AI generated photos. Trump is right. Can I fucking eat that? Can I take that to CVS to go get a prescription? I cannot. Right? But this is what MAGA is dining out on. So much so that Governor Gavin Newsom in California has launched his own platform, has launched a truth platform because of the inundation of misinformation that is happening around the fires. The same thing that happened with Hurricane Helene.
That's right.
Right? And all of the lies that are coming out that people are taking a hold of. Also, by the way, Los Angeles County, and maybe you can tell us this, Waj, how many mayors are there? How many provinces are there? And yet the only one that is catching flack and heat right now is Karen Bass, right?
This is New York Times, by the way, folks. This is New York Times.
Karen Bass is the only one that is catching flack and heat right now. And she's only the mayor of the city of Los Angeles. And there are umpteenth mayors of Calabasas, Beverly Hills, Pasadena, all of these other places that are being touched by this fire. But somehow it's the Black woman's fault, right? For having left the country. Somehow it's her that has caused all the fires. So MAGA,
bringing back full circle. MAGA will always unite over racism, and MAGA will always unite over relishing in the sadness, in the pain of the rest of us. Because another core aspect of MAGA, in addition to the racism and nativism, and everyone else wants to whitewash it, we never have on democracy-ish. We will always call it out. Racist, not a racial flare-up, not a racial trip-up, racism. The other aspect of it is the following: own the libs. Even if it means dying, as long as they own the libs. It's like Wrath of Khan, right? Like Khan is sitting there, spoiler alert, he's dying, and he goes, from hell's heart, I stab at thee. Right? And he doesn't mind dying as long as he kills Captain Kirk, right? That's how they are. And so here is a moment where it's the second most dangerous fire, might become the most dangerous fire, wiping out people, over 100,000 people displaced. Like the numbers are going to go up, like what, nearly 24 people is going to go up killed. All these folks losing their homes. Now it's just not the rich folks. It's a lot of the middle-class folks. We just talked to you about the Black community. And you would think the president of the United States of America, because there are a lot of Republicans in California, it's my home state, the most populous state, you would think just intelligently, fifth largest economy in the world, maybe we should take care of this state. Maybe it's important. Disinformation, lies, to the point where Gavin Newsom, as he's running around trying to save lives, has to put out a website to combat the lies that Donald Trump, the president of the United States, is spreading, that is mocking and ridiculing these folks, because instead of saying and acknowledging climate change that Octavia Butler, a Black woman, wrote about years ago, they're blaming DEI,
Yep.
black people, black firefighters, black leaders. That's what they're openly blaming. I sat there and I saw this, Danielle, and I don't really get too angry, but I was like, man, I hope bad things happen. Like, I hope terrible things happen to Donald Trump and these folks, because maybe it's my home. Actually, it's not even my home state. It's just being a human being. Like, it's one degree of separation. I know so many people have lost their homes. Like, these are just people. They didn't deserve it. It's climate change. What are you going to do? And the winds are uncontrollable now. And all these climate scientists have been talking about it. And these people are suffering. They're dying. Literally, there's nothing, folks. Look at the images. There's nothing left. They have lost everything. And compassion and kindness and a good word costs nothing. Yesterday, we went and visited, in all traditions, in our cultures as well, when someone dies, you go and there's a word you say, give pursa, means you give and give respects. You sit with them, you empathize with them, you tell good stories, you cry with them, you recite some Quran, right? So we went there yesterday to a family friend around our age. Their father was a pillar of the community, died. And you know what? We brought food. And what did it cost us, Danielle?
Yep.
Like hour and a half of our time. And they were just really grateful and thankful. And this mother effer does this instead. Sorry for my rant. It's really pissing me off.
But it's true. And again, folks, we have got to ground ourselves in truth. We have got to link arms. We have got to figure out a pathway forward and be the generators and lanterns that are needed during this time, because things are about to get exceedingly dark in the coming weeks, months, and years ahead. But we will continue to be here now twice a week, Monday and Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern. So do make sure that if you are here for the first time, that you are subscribing, that you are liking. We thank you so much for your donation today. They go a long way. Sharing these posts on your platform. The show goes up on YouTube right after. And so everything and anything that you can do to help build this community and build networks of truth and integrity will go a very long way. So we leave that with you today. We will be back on Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Waj, last thought, last word?
Listen, thank you for joining us. The show went a little bit longer today, but we had a lot to get off our chest, but you stayed with us. The community is growing. Thank you. And as always, try our best if you can. For the people who give $1, $2, I always want to say it means a lot. We don't take any of it for granted. It's grassroots. We're building it up, and I know folks are limited. So any $5, $10, $20, some people give us money from Canada. Some people watch us from Morocco, we found out today. It all goes such a long way. Thank you for helping us build this ecosystem of hopefully love, of truth, of decency, of kindness, of facts, of science, of compassion. And we have to do our part. We're not going to give up. And until next week, well, not next week, until Friday, inshallah, hopefully, as we always say, rest, heal, don't exhaust yourself. We don't need martyrs. I need people for the long walk. So do what you can. Find joy in your life. Rest when's necessary, because this is a long fight, folks. And it's not just for us. It's for our kids and the next generation.
Thank you for listening to Democracy-ish. I am Danielle Moodie.
And I'm Wajahat Ali.
And we will be back on Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern, if in fact we have a country left. Inshallah.